Hey, welcome to the journey, y'all. It's your boy, Journeyman Bell, aka Mr. 100, y'all. Coming in on Sunday Night Live, a little late, but we are going to get this done today, y'all, as we are dealing with reading between the lines, the power or the danger in assumptions. You know, one thing about assumptions is this. We get ourselves tied up in a lot of the wrong functions with assumptions. Assumptions are things that we plant in our own minds, our own heads, about whether it's about people or whether it's about God's plan or whether it's about ourselves and situations. A lot of times assumptions are the things that we try and fill in the gaps with without getting full understanding, without getting the facts, because we want to what? Draw conclusions that are made without all the facts. That's what assumptions are. Assumptions is drawing conclusions without all the facts. So in other words, whatever it is that we need to fill in these spots in our lives with, whatever it is that we need to bring to make it feel right to us, those are assumptions. Those are the things that we do a lot of. And so this is going to be part one. I'm going to deal with relationship assumptions in relationship. But like I said, I got four other parts when we deal with relationship. When we deal with assumptions, a lot of times it's with people, it's with God's plan, it's with yourself and with situations. So I'm going to come back in and talk about God's plan, yourself, and situations next week. Next week I'll deal with that. But today we're going to talk about basically relationships. Watch this. How are assumptions formed? Assumptions are typically formed through emotional places. They're formed through past experiences, through fears that are caused by a lot of times past experiences. Also pride. Also pride, and watch this, limited information. Let me give you those tips again. Assumptions, most assumptions are formed, and since we're talking about relationship today, most assumptions of what we get from one another, or we assume from one another, we think for one another, a lot of times come through emotions. They are formed through emotions, through past relationships, through fears, pride, and limited information. So when we assume instead of seeking the truth. We assume instead of seeking the truth. Why? Because it takes away mental energy. Come on here. It takes more to get to the truth than it does to just assume something is what it is. How many times have someone ignored you, and so you went straight to just assuming that they didn't want to talk to you instead of finding out the course of it? How many times have you assumed that this or that was going on with someone in church? You just thought and you started filling in the blanks of what you wanted instead of giving them the opportunity to explain, to make it make sense, to bring clarity to things. And when we get our emotions involved, when past relationships of pain have come in, when we get afraid or all these different areas of pride, or we really don't want to know the truth, so what we'll do is we'll build up a guard and we'll try and defend. Come on now. We'll try and defend ourselves from what we really want to hear, because we'll rather draw our own conclusion than to give a person a fair chance at what they need to say concerning the matter. You are dealing with assumptions. And listen, I'll be down that road with y'all. I've been there before where I would rather just say what I thought happened and just put in my head what I wanted it to be, whether it's the worst or whatever it would cause me to detach from the situation so that I can move on. Because what fears do, fear says, I'm going to set that, okay, they don't want to talk to me. Instead of asking them, why haven't we been able to talk? Instead of communicating with them why this has not happened, we would rather just say, oh, well, they probably didn't want to talk to me no way. They don't want to receive me. They don't want to hear what I got to say. They are too afraid of the anointing that's on my life. Instead of addressing them with maybe give them an opportunity of why they haven't been able to connect or talk to you, you just automatically went into your fear zone, went into your emotional zone, went into your past places of rejection, because a lot of times assumptions are built off of past pains. So we try and prepare ourselves. Come on here, let's be real on tonight. We try and prepare ourselves for the worst. Have you ever just prepared yourself for the worst in a relationship because you felt like it was going to be over? So you just bowed yourself out before you gave that person an opportunity to try and fix the relationship? Have you ever found yourself bowing yourself out of something way before you gave them an opportunity because you were afraid to deal with the realness? You were afraid to hear the outcome. You were afraid of whatever, and you let your pride get in the way and say, well, I'm going to be right this time about this situation, and I'm just going to assume, come on here, I'm just going to assume the worst. And that way I can save myself some heartache. I can save myself some previous experiences. I can save myself some previous places, and I'm just tired. So I got enough information. Come on here. I got enough information to give myself a way out of this before I become damaged. We really, really, really need to grab a hold to the dangers of assumptions in our lives. Because what assumptions going to do, assumptions going to mess us up in anointed places in God. Assumptions are going to remove us out of places where God needed us to be in for a season. And instead of us getting the proper information, we'll take limited information and remove ourselves from the picture because we feel like it doesn't fit, or we feel like we don't fit, or it feels like we are not in the proper place. So that means that our season is up. So I need to go. Let me drop this on you real fast. Stop moving out of places that you don't have all the information to at the time. Get the information. That way you'll have clarity in when you leave. Because a lot of times we'll leave things unsolved. We'll leave relationships unresolved. We'll leave circumstances and situations unresolved. We'll leave places that that we sense in the beginning God brought us to, but because we would rather assume the worst instead of getting clarity because of our fears, we just start saying, well, I'm just going to pull myself on out of this right now before I get hurt. You don't even know if you're going to get hurt. You don't even know what the outcome of the situation is, because why? You allowed the danger of assumption to overshadow you when it came to the relationship. We're going to talk about relationship on tonight. Watch this. Assuming instead of seeking the truth, because it takes mental energy. We don't want to go through the mental preparation of trying to understand. So we would rather, we said, I don't want to think about this no more. I just want it to be over with. Well, listen, by doing that, when you start to get into that place, and you just rather just take your limited information instead of getting the wholeness of your situation, what you are doing is you are removing yourself from anointed places. And now God's got to start to rebuild in you again to encourage you that your season is coming when you were already in your season for God to grow. But because you were not willing to find out everything you needed to know in that season, you jumped ship way too early. And now God's got to start the process over. So that's the reason why it always feels like this is a new season. And this is why it always feels like God is doing something great in your life, because you didn't finish what God was trying to do in your last season. So you assumed, you start building the mental bridge to get out quickly, and then you left before time. And God said that this this mental place that you don't want to put yourself through is what's costing you so much, which is why it feels like you're always starting over, because you have not taken the time to properly assess the things that you're going through. Watch this. Here's another thing. Here's another reason why we assume instead of seeking the truth. Because why? It takes too much time. It takes too much time. It takes too much mental energy. It takes too much trying to sort through the difference of opinions to try and get to the answer, because somebody sees something a little different. We take it as though it's a dispute. Just because someone sees it differently does not mean that they're trying to dispute you. This just simply means they're explaining their side, and you have to be flexible enough. This is the problem. We don't want to be flexible enough to be open-minded to more of what a conversation may fall up under. Whenever you have closed-minded opinions or views concerning a matter, when someone else is involved in the matter, whenever you already have drawn your conclusion to something that you have not given a person the proper chance to understand in relationship, you are under the guidelines of assumptions. Whenever you put yourself in a place where you've already isolated and cut a person off without giving them the person the opportunity to give their side of the story, you're in assumptions. I've been caught in this place. That's the reason why I'm talking from a place that I know. I have been in a place where I have said, I don't want to hear about it and I don't want to know nothing. I know all I need to know, and so I'm finna go. And I've taken myself out of seasons in God because of the little information that I had. And then God's got to go back in and do a rebuild in me. So I got to go back through forgiveness. I got to go back through God. Help me to be a better listener. Help me to be more patient. All these things start to formulate because I was not willing to put in the time. Here's the most important part of this, of why assuming instead of seeking the truth. Is, watch this, it's an uncomfortable place to be incorrect. It's an uncomfortable place to be incorrect. Listen, we don't like to be wrong. Let's be honest. Who likes to be wrong? Who likes to be wrong about what they believe? Can I drop it like this? What we believe that the Lord was showing us. Because I'm talking to a believing people in this hour. So something we believe we discerned or we picked up on in another person or people, we have this assumption of what we know or what we think we know instead of getting the full honest understanding of an individual. Can I drop this 100 on everybody? Your discernment, our discernment of what we assume somebody is or is not is going to destroy a lot of relationships, because what we try and use that we call spiritual discernment is just elements that we are trying to cover up because we fear connection. We fear being close. We fear being wrong. And instead of just saying, God, I'm wrong about this, we just go with this uncomfortable place of discernment that we say, oh, the Lord is showing me that this is of the enemy. Come on, I'm guilty, because I'll be the first to say, oh, the Lord is showing me that this person ain't for me. I have not given them the real opportunity to express themselves in any way. They haven't given me any indication that they are of the enemy. But I've already wrote them off, and I've already put them in a category that they are trying to separate and hinder me from God without giving them the opportunity to share. We as church people have this bad of assumption and confusing it with discernment. Come on now. I'm guilty, because I don't say, oh, I see the spirit on this person. Before I even got a chance to know them, oh, this person here, I can tell they're a witch or warlock. Come on now, we like to use that a lot. Oh, they're a witch or warlock. Now listen, I'm not saying that everybody's discernment is completely off, but I am saying that if you have not even tried to talk to someone, if you have not even tried to communicate with someone, how can you be so sure that this is not God and it's not you? I'm going to talk about that on part 2, about yourself using your own assumptions. But tonight we're talking about assumptions in relationships, because I think that this is what is tearing so many of us apart, because we assume way too much before trying to get to the root of everything. So let's go into this real fast. I'm going to talk about 4 quick points on tonight about assumptions in relationships. I'm going to talk about the reading the mind trap. I'm going to talk about the brain shortcuts. I'm going to talk about the protection against vulnerability and the unspoken expectations on tonight. Okay. So as we're talking about the mind reading trap, Jesus, what we try and do, especially us that are spiritual, Lord, we try and discern others' thoughts before we honestly give them time. We project our past on the present person in relationships. Y'all heard what I said? We project our past. So if they show signs of what we've been through before, you know what we do? We automatically start projecting off our exes. We start projecting and giving the images of our current person in relationship. We start putting them in the category of what we've been through already, because they may show similar signs. Just because someone shows similar signs does not mean that they are a cycle. You got to get to the understanding of everything that they're doing. But if you already projected them as a part of your past, you are already trying to read their mind. Don't fall to the trap. Come on now. Don't fall in the trap of thinking before you understand. Watch this. We think others should interpret life same as us. We think others, this is part of the mind trap, is that we think others should interpret life same as us. Listen, we all think differently when it comes to life, when it comes to relationship. Yes, we should walk in agreement in some areas. No question about that. But you cannot assume that a person thinks about certain life outcomes the same as you. But not just that, but the way we think that they should think like we should think about it. This is where the error is that we try and project the way we think about our life experiences on them. And because they don't see life the same way as we do, we assume that they don't understand life. We assume that they don't understand the rhythm of life and how it is. Can I be honest with you? If we would take more time and realize that a person's life, we may went through some similar things, but how we view it may be a help to one another, instead of assuming like, oh, well, you just don't want to agree. And how can two people walk unless they agree? And we start trying to be this unequally yoked place. When in actuality, it's your assumptions that are creating the unequal yoke. It's your belief system, because they didn't live their life the way you live it. You try and project your life on theirs, and so because they don't see it exactly the same, you think that that's not enough for you to be in a relationship with them. When in actuality, your assumptions are what is tearing apart how you project the relationship to be. Watch this. Here's the third point in the mind reading trap is, watch this. We replace the truth for interpretation. Proverbs 14:12, real fast. Let me read this. Proverbs 14:12 says this. It says, there is a way, that seemeth right to a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. There's a way that seems right to a man, but the ways thereof thereof are the ways of death. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Just because you try and put your interpretation into a place where where the truth is, does not mean that you're right. I've been in relationships with people where they were so convinced that their way was the right way that they have completely blocked out any suggestions of what anybody else would say in that place. So if I'm already thinking tunnel vision, we got a lot of people, a lot of believers with tunnel vision because we got fears, we got past experiences, we got all these different things that have come along that have created an isolated mindset that if you don't think exactly like I think, then you are not thinking properly at all. You know what that is? That's witchcraft. That's witchcraft, that's control. If you don't think the way I think, then it's my way or no way. If you don't believe it my way, then that means that you are not operating correctly. That's controlled thinking. And instead of putting the truth in and saying, okay, how you think about it is different, so let me see if that lines up with the way I feel about it as well. Can't control everybody's thinking to think like you. This is why we're all different. We know that God has made us uniquely different, but the problem that we have is we assume that everybody is going to view the way relationship is the way we view it. And if we don't learn how to accept people's views for where they are, then we're going to continue to assume they're going to think like we think. And that's the biggest mistake we make in relationships, is trying to put our assumptions into other people's thinking to think like we think. And if they don't think like we think, then they're wrong. I got it right. I got it right. You're killing relationships that way. So be careful of the mind reading traps. Number 2 is the brain shortcuts. The mind conclusions, brain shortcuts in the mind. Conclusions over conversations. We draw conclusions immediately. We don't have a conversation about it. We don't give I talked about it just a second ago. We don't give the person the proper opportunity to express themselves, to relay their information, but we want to be in a relationship. Let me ask you this. How can you want to be in a relationship with someone that you don't value their views for? You want to be with them, but you want to impose all of your viewpoints on that relationship. If they don't think the way you think, then you don't want them, but you still want the relationship with them. Come on now. You cannot have a balanced relationship if your views are the only views that are it. And if you've already drawn a conclusion without a conversation, then you are walking under dangerous areas of assumption. You are using your brain to make a shortcut to a realistic point, a realistic view of how things should end. We got to cut that out. Watch this. Assumptions feels easier. Assumption feels easier than what? It feels easier than building mental stories rather than clarity. Assumptions give us shortcuts. It gives us the opportunity to build a story where we want so that we can be right and we can say, well, I knew it all along. That's what assumptions does. We start to build our own storyline instead of getting the clarity we need for the situation in the relationship. So by already assuming, by already drawing a conclusion, by already saying, well, I already knew it was going to go this way, without proper conversation, that's key. Conclusions without conversations always end up in separation. Conclusions without conversation always end up in separation. You are building a story of how you want the relationship to end without proper investigation and information for the relationship to continue. So you'll just close the book on it because it's easier, it's quicker to just write you out of my life than to extend the character in your life, extend the conversation through conversation with the person in your life. I would rather just write you off and be done with it. It's a lot easier to just get it on out the way, get you out of my way, get you out of my life, and that way I can say, well, God, I tried, but you really didn't. Especially when God is trying to be telling you, hey, listen, make it work. Go back in, reconcile. Go back in, fix this. But as long as you keep fighting against, what God is trying to do and establish conversation. See, church people, I have to keep saying church people because this is for y'all. We don't want to talk stuff out. We want to talk about what we want to talk about, and then that's the end of it. We don't want to see no other sides or no other views and all this kind of stuff. If you ain't seeing the way I'm seeing it, goodbye. We're killing ourselves because we're drawing conclusions without conversation. Third point, it's a quick night tonight, is it's a protection against vulnerabilities. Assumptions are protections against vulnerabilities. Watch this. This place here, what it does is it hides fears. Assumptions gives us the power to hide fears. So we don't want people to really see about what's going on with us. We don't want people to really know what's going on the inner parts of us. But watch this. What it does, it exposes us to rejection and disappointment. Assumptions expose and pinpoint areas of rejection and disappointment. So when you start to assume things or when you start to draw assumptions, what you are showing is areas where in your past you've dealt with things where you've been rejected, you've been overlooked, you've been neglected, you've been isolated, you've been disappointed. Because why? You would rather draw an assumption to end the relationship, to draw your conclusion, so that there's no conversation, because vulnerability is only going to show more of myself. And I don't want to be seen anymore because why? I fear getting hurt again. But when you start to assume, what you're doing is throwing up red flags that I've been rejected. You're throwing up red flags saying I've been disappointed. People have let me down. People have betrayed me. So I'll just end it before it can begin, before I can go through it again. I've been rejected, so I'm just going to say, all right, you just go ahead and have it. I don't care. It don't matter. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I don't even need to know. See, when you start to cut people off, you're showing that you're still dealing with rejection and disappointment. When you start to draw a conclusion to somebody else's story about your relationship without giving them the opportunity to share their viewpoint, what you're showing yourself is I've been rejected, I've been disappointed, I've been let down. And listen, it's okay to be honest about it, but when this is where pride comes in there, because we would rather hold on to our pride than to allow humility to have its way in us. And God says what? That he will what? Resist the proud and give what? Grace to the humble. And he says as long as you are resisting the ability for the relationship to flourish, because you're afraid of being rejected, you're afraid of being disappointed, you're afraid of all of these things that come along with relationship. Why you're in a relationship right now? You're obviously not ready. If you are in places where you assume everything without giving the individual an opportunity to ever explain themselves, you are dealing with an assumptive place. And when you're dealing with assumptions in your life, glory to God, when you deal with someone in assumptions, I'm helping you identify either you are a person that assumes or you deal with somebody that assumes for you. And if they always thinking for you, then you're dealing with a person that's been rejected. You're dealing with a person that has fears. You're dealing with a person that has pride, a person that deals with limited information. Come on here. You're dealing with somebody that really don't want to spend the time, that doesn't want to put forth the effort. They don't want. They're showing you their past experiences all through the assumptions. And that's frustrating, y'all. Dealing with and having assumption is frustrating because you don't really get a chance to share your point because they've already made up in their mind what their point is. They've already concluded what they think about you when they say, "Oh, I'm done with it. I don't have anything else to say about it. And I don't care what you feel about it. I've already declared or made up my mind that this is what it is." When you're dealing with people like this, you're dealing with people that are hiding their fears. Lord Jesus. They're hiding their fears, their rejections, their disappointment, their pride, all their past experiences. They are telling you about their lives through their assumption. Woo! Jesus. People will tell you a lot about what they've been through by the way they deal with pain. Assumptions draw conclusions to things of what they've been through. So now you're getting an opportunity to either watch yourself in a relationship or not be in a relationship with them, because now you have the opportunity to work with them through it or work your way out of it. Whichever one that fits better for you. I'm not telling you either or. I'm just telling you this is what happens so that you will know what you're dealing with people that draw their own conclusions about things that they have not given you the proper opportunity to explain. Whew. They've not given you the proper opportunity to express yourselves. They've not given you the proper opportunity to make clear your side of the story in the relationship. Watch this. Protecting against vulnerabilities, they hide fears, it exposes to rejection and disappointment. Watch this. Here's the third point of this, is that it creates a false sense of emotional control. Creates a false sense of emotional control. Because listen, at the end of the day, I don't want to lose control of myself. Because if I give too much of myself, if I give too much of what I've been through, if I put myself out there too much, if I put myself in a vulnerable place, I'm protecting my vulnerabilities by creating a false sense of emotional control. I'm protecting my vulnerability. I'm protecting places where I've been hurt by trying to be controlled, by trying to control the emotional place. So emotional control is I'm going to pull myself out before I let you pull me down. Emotional control is trying to pull yourself out before you believe somebody is going to pull you down. So you're trying to what do they call it? It's like a safety or like a pre-safety thing. I'm trying to prepare myself for destruction before I give you the opportunity to destroy me. We deal with that a lot with our church people. So we would rather assume that a person is out to kill us, destroy us, than to properly get the information so that we can work through it. We'll draw a conclusion before conversation. Last but not least, we would rather be certain and wrong than open and unsure. We would rather be certain and wrong than open and unsure. We would rather be certain, we would rather be certain and wrong than open and unsure. Certain and wrong is simply this. I'm certain that what you're telling me is leading me to a place that's going to hurt me. But I'm unsure of it, which is why I don't want to open myself up. So, but if I open myself up, then what I'm saying is maybe there's a possibility that I'm wrong. But now, if you're wrong, can you go back in and can say I was wrong? Can you go back in and say I need to fix this part of me? That what I was thinking, it was completely wrong. I was completely wrong about. Can we go back in and acknowledge that the way I was thinking about something was completely wrong? That's a hard pill, but a lot of times if you don't want to address your inaccurate places of discernment, then you are walking in pride and you are letting your assumptions win the battles over the truth. What you avoid asking is what is misunderstood the most. What you avoid asking is misunderstood the most. What you avoid asking is misunderstood the most. Say it one more time. What you avoid asking is misunderstood the most. What you avoid asking is misunderstood the most. When you don't ask questions, assumptions will start to build their way in your lives. When you don't ask questions, assumptions will find their way into your thought pattern. Whatever you don't have the final answer to, assumption will fill in the blanks for. Come on here. As long as you draw your own conclusions without a conversation, you'll always have a lie in that place. Now, sometimes it may be true, but listen, have you given them the opportunity to express their truth? Have you given the relationship an opportunity to heal from this broken assumption place? Because we jump right to the far end real quick. I can't tell you how many times I've jumped to conclusions off of something that I didn't give proper time for explanation for. How many times have you concluded something was done without the proper closure that was needed to solidify reconciliation? How many times have you said, oh, I already know where this is going, without even giving the person an opportunity to do it? We as believers do it so often because why? Like I said earlier, we think it's discernment. So what we do is we use our spiritual places and we try and say, well, the Lord already done showed me this was going to happen because you don't back away. When in actuality, they could have just been dealing with some stuff, but we didn't take the time to even go and find out. We thought that because they created distance, that they didn't want to be a part of our lives anymore. So what did? We just started pulling back. When your spouse started creating distance and the vibe is off, don't assume. Let's go back in and let's talk to them. Let's see what's going on. Let's find the answer. Stop avoiding asking questions, because that's where misunderstandings occur the most. Be inquisitive. I would rather you be inquisitive and get the truth than to assume and believe a lie. At least you'll know the truth. The hurt is not going to be any less painful than what you already assuming. So if it is what you assume, then you can't avoid the pain any less. We try so often to avoid the pains in our lives by trying to exit early when we still got to go through the same process of pain no matter how they disappoint us. Because disappointment from somebody that we care about is not going to change just because we leave it early. It's still going to be a disappointment that's going to require time to recover through. There is no disappointment that we can go through that we still won't have recovery time, no matter how much we know about it. I'm just dropping that. There's no disappointment from somebody we care about that will make it any less painful if we knew the truth or if we believed the lie and assumed it was the same thing. it's not going to make a difference because it came from who we love. So we can't set ourselves up for less pain because whoever hurt us, the pain is still going to be there regardless. Okay? So we're trying to protect ourselves from vulnerable places. We trying to do brain shortcuts. We trying to do mind traps to catch things. Last thing is that we have unspoken expectations. What do I mean? Expectations on what's not communicated. We start, like I've been saying, we start trying to fill in the blanks. We already knew you were going to say that. I already knew you were going to say that. I already knew you were going to do this. I already knew you were going to do that. We draw conclusions before we have conversations. Can't say that enough. So your expectations already have wrote them into a category without giving them a fair chance to express themselves, to explain themselves. These unspoken places, they're killing relationships. Have a hard conversation. Yes, it's going to take some time to sort through because you got to deal with your mental approach, how you feel about what you're going to talk about, and then you got to deal with the possibility that you just might be wrong with what you thought. Now, there's the question, what do you do with everything that you thought you knew was not it? What do you do with everything that you thought was right in the conversation? It wasn't that. When you've already assumed that you already knew what they were going to say, what they were going to do without even talking to them. When you draw conclusions without conversations, you build misunderstandings in relationships. And how many things have you drawn conclusions to already that have not been cleared out in relationships that you're in? And you wonder why there's so much tension within your relationship. You wonder why there's so much tension within whom you're supposed to care for. Because why? There's conclusions, there's assumptions already being placed. Whether it's from you or them, you already have a preconceived idea of what they're going to say without giving them a fair chance to say it. Assumptions are killing relationships over and over and over again because we fear, we hide our fears. We've got past relationship issues. We've got pride of being wrong. Come on now. I know we don't like to be wrong. But listen, I would rather be wrong knowing the truth than to try and be right and I know it's a lie. Because what if what I'm assuming about the relationship or the conversation that I had with someone is completely wrong? Can you be real enough with yourself to say, hey, listen, the way I thought about this, these unspoken expectations of what I was thinking, it was completely wrong, and I can accept that. Can you be real with yourself? Do you really want healthy relationships? Because I'm telling you, assumptions is going to kill them. Assumptions are going to kill our relationships that we have with people that we care about because why? We are afraid of having meaningful conversations with one another. Real hard-nosed conversations. Because if I love you enough, I can deal with the truth of whatever it is I'm thinking and be wrong. Because I want the relationship to be healthy. But as long as you keep drawing your own conclusions without having conversations, as long as you continue to say, this is how I feel about it, as long as they continue to say what they already think about it without giving you the opportunity, you are dealing with a relationship of assumptions. Whew. That's a hard pill to swallow, but that's where a lot of relationships are in churches. That's where a lot of relationships are in marriages and in friendships, because we would rather hold on to our assumptions and unspoken expectations than we would rather sit down and talk to them about what is hurting us. If it's real with you, just say, hey, this is a real place for me, Belle. Because listen, I want to be better. I don't want to continue to be this way. I want better, healthy relationships. And that comes with firm willingness to say, I'm willing to be wrong, but I got to ask this question. But if I'm right, then Lord, help me to deal with the correct things that I've been dealing with. Because at least you will know what you've been thinking. Don't let your thoughts build you into a place where you have not established through conversation. Let me finish this up. The unspoken expectation, watch this. The personal standards are not universal. They are yours. Personal standards are not universal. That means that just because I have a specific way on which I'm dealing with a thing does not mean that you think about it the same way. I have to be willing to have that conversation. I'm going to keep saying that over and over. I've got to be willing to have the conversation to get clarity. This is about getting clarity about something that you believe was going on or you believe is there. At least give them the opportunity to share with you their side. And if it is what it is, you go from that bridge. But if it is what it's not, you address it and say, I'm wrong. But one way or the other, try and get some understanding. Well, Bell, what if I talk to them and that I feel like they're lying? But if you don't have any truth behind it, all you got is a sense of something. And I just talked about that. Don't let your senses confuse you. Because a lot of times, yes, they could be right. But also your senses can be wrong. So you have to take someone for what their behavior shows you. What Maya Angelou said, if someone shows you who they are, accept it. So that means that if you talk to someone, they told you that it's not what you were thinking. Now, all you have to do is just watch their behavior. Because if their behavior is going to line up to whatever their truth is, you can't keep deceiving somebody if you say you're this way or you say this happened and then they keep showing you a different perspective of them. You ain't got to tell nobody because the truth is going to always find it. The truth is always going to find out itself, but you cannot build your own personal standards and think it's going to be a universal thing. You can't establish a law that you believe should be a universal law for everybody you're in a relationship with because everybody is not you. Everybody don't have the same fears you got. They don't have the same past experiences you got. They don't have the same kind of pride that you have. They don't have even the same type of information that you may find the way you retain the information. So you got to be open enough to realize the way I think about it is a standard, but it's not everybody's standard. This is where communication works in at. My last couple of points is this. Simple as this. Curiosity builds bridges. Assumptions builds walls. Curiosity builds bridges. Assumptions build walls. What do I mean? If you're curious, have a conversation. But if you assume, you're going to have isolation. Say that one more time. Curiosity invokes conversation. But assumptions builds isolation. You build walls. You're building personal barriers. How can you ever be in a relationship when you got your own barriers up? Who can come into your space to connect with you when you have all these assumptive barriers up in your own life that will not allow you and permit you to enter into another person's life? What kind of relationship do you have with somebody that assumes everything? You don't have a relationship because they already have their law established in their head about you already. You can't build a relationship with someone that has assumptions about everything about you. Or you just like every other man. If they already have what they think about you in place, you cannot build a relationship off of that. You can work towards it. But listen, why should you have to work on a place of trust to a person that only trusts themselves? Why are you working to try and establish a place where they can trust you when they have already established that they don't trust anyone? But because we care about them so much, we want it to work so much, we're willing to put in the effort. But you got to realize that that is a lot of work. It's a lot of work to build with somebody that already has a tunnel vision about what you are as an individual. It's a lot of work. So when we start to deal with assumptions, those are the things we deal with. Like I said, tonight I just wanted to touch on relationship. I may come back next Sunday and talk about how we assume in God's plan, how we assume in ourselves, and also how we assume in situations. We try and plan those things out. So y'all, that's all I really got for tonight. It's very small and very, very formatted conversation on tonight. And I thank you for tuning in and listening on this Sunday Night Live. Once again, I do apologize for being late, but I thank you for tuning in. If you feel led to share. Feel led to take some notes. I hope there's some information in there that you can glean from to help build stronger relationships with those that you care about. Y'all take care. This your boy, Journeyman Bell, aka Mr. 100. See you next time.